So look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah! What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, the NFL Draft happened this past weekend. From Thursday to Saturday, the Detroit Lions made 8 selections to improve their roster for the 2023 NFL season. And today, we are going to recap the draft, going from pick 12 all the way to the 7th round of the NFL draft, looking at every new addition to the Detroit Lions, grading the pick, telling you about the player, and kind of giving you a visual on what the Detroit Lions actually added in the 2023 NFL draft. Now, starting off, of course, in the first round, after the big trade down news happened, is going to be Jahmyr Gibbs, the Alabama running back, selected 12th overall in the 2023 NFL Draft. Jahmyr Gibbs is an explosive playmaker. He's a dynamic wide receiver and is kind of a mix of Alvin Kamara as far as the contact balance and the elusiveness, combined with 4.3 speed as far as Jameson Williams. He is essentially Jameson Williams at the running back position, except this time he's actually going to play in his rookie season. He's not coming off of a major injury. Last year led Alabama in rushing and receiving, as well as total scrimmage yards, had 151 carries, 926 rushing yards, averaging 6.1 yards per carry in the SEC, while having 44 receptions for 444 yards and 10 total touchdowns again in the SEC. He led Alabama in receiving yards, led Alabama in scrimmage yards, led Alabama in rushing yards. He is the most explosive player, the most explosive playmaker in this 2023 draft. And there's going to be a lot of people that say running back is poor value. Running back should not be a top 15 pick. Running back should not be a first round pick, which there is an argument for, right? The lifespan of a running back in the NFL isn't always the longest, but then you could also argue that, well, that 5th-year option then makes it more valuable, right? Then you don't have to sign them to that second contract sooner rather than later, and you can wait an extra year, get an extra year out of your running back on a rookie contract before having to make that crucial second contract decision. Now, there's a lot of people, again, that think this is a reach. There's a lot of people that graded this as the worst pick in the first round. I disagree. I think that trading down from 6 to 12, getting a 2nd round pick and a 5th round pick in return, right, getting that value back and still getting the most explosive playmaker in the draft is not a bad thing. Now, positional value-wise, sure, you could have done better. You should have got or could have got Jalen Carter at 6. You could have got Christian Gonzalez at 12. You could have gotten a lot more premium positions, but at the end of the day, you're getting a dynamic playmaker and the most explosive player in the draft. How is that going to end up being a bad thing? Now, the Detroit Lions' second player in this draft was just as controversial as the first, as Jack Campbell was selected with the 18th overall pick in the 2023 NFL Draft. Now, standing at 6'5", Jack Campbell is a big linebacker. He's more of a traditional linebacker. He's somebody that really hasn't been seen in the NFL since probably Luke Kuechly retired from the Panthers several seasons ago. But last year at Iowa, Jack Campbell had 125 tackles, 5.5 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. He brings size to the defense. He's going to improve the run game immediately. He's going to bring leadership to that linebacking core and the Detroit Lions defense, despite being a rookie. And he is a really, really good coverage linebacker. I believe graded PFF's top coverage linebacker in college football a season ago. And if you go watch the interceptions that he had, particularly the one against CJ Stroud, he looks so comfortable in coverage, looks so fluid in coverage. And despite being 6'5", despite being relatively heavy for the linebacker position and not necessarily running the fastest 40, a 4.6 40-yard dash, he is really quick off the line. He always gets to his spot on time, always fills his gap during the run game, excels really quickly, and changes directions really well for somebody of his size, which leads to him being really good in coverage. He's somebody that just plays the game really well and plays the game like a Detroit Lion. And yeah, people are going to say, oh, it's a reach. Oh, it's a linebacker in round one. You never take linebacker. You never take running back with your first round picks. Jack Campbell is going to do the things the Lions need him to do. All season, all offseason, the Lions fans have been talking about how you need to improve the rushing defense, how you need to get a coverage linebacker, how you need to, go out and pay Tremaine Edmonds to be that elite linebacker, how you got to go get that linebacker in free agency. But Jack Campbell brings all of those things. He brings the size of Tremaine Edmonds. He brings the coverage ability of a top linebacker in the NFL. He brings the run support of a top linebacker in the NFL and brings leadership and size on top of all of that. So, yes, positionally, again, might not have been the best pick in the draft, but he is such a special player and such a good leader that this pick is going to work out very well for the Detroit Lions. His pro comparison is Luke Kuechly, right? A player that was taken 9th overall by the Panthers and a multiple-time All-Pro is now on the Detroit Lions roster. And I have full faith that Brad Holmes and Aaron Glenn and Kelvin Shepard will get the most out of Jack Campbell like they did last year with Malcolm Rodriguez. Now, going on to the second round, the Detroit Lions remained controversial, sticking at the state of Iowa and selecting tight end Sam LaPorta with their first second round selection. Now, last year, with incredibly poor quarterbacking play, Sam LaPorta was pretty good. 58 receptions, 657 yards, and a touchdown for the tight end, having the most receptions from a tight end in Iowa history. And actually, I believe having the most receptions, period, in Iowa history from either tight end or wide receiver. He's an athletic prospect. He is the best yak ability in the class from the tight end perspective, has strong hands, and is a really solid, willing blocker. Sam LaPorta, the tight end position, again, not a valuable position. If you're talking positional value, the Lions probably started this draft the worst way you possibly could, taking a replaceable position at running back, taking a not valuable position at off-ball linebacker, and taking a tight end in an offense that just traded away their tight end a season ago. But if you look at the players that they got, including Sam LaPorta, they got good ball players, right? Sam LaPorta is going to thrive in the NFL. He looks to me a lot like George Kittle, who, came from Iowa, but just has the same yak ability, has the same receiving upside, has the same willingness as a blocker and ability as a blocker. I mean, you don't go to Iowa unless you can block. You don't go to Iowa unless you're a really, really good tight end. And Sam LaPorta is an incredibly good tight end. He is pretty much Brock Wright if Brock Wright improved everything about his game, right? But they have similar skill sets, right? They block pretty well. They're willing blockers. They have yak ability. They have good, secure hands. They can be that security blanket, or they can kind of get their way and get open down the seams. They're very good players. And now the Lions have a tight end trio of Sam LaPorta, Brock Wright, and James Mitchell, all three of whom are pretty good receiving threats, LaPorta and Mitchell especially. And now they have even more dynamic weapons for Jared Goff and the offense. I think this is a really good pick for the Detroit Lions. And honestly, they did a really good job early in the round, not with positional value, but with getting really good football players. Now, moving in to the middle of the second round, pick 45, the Detroit Lions got arguably the steal of the draft. Brian Branch, the defensive back from Alabama, was the 45th overall pick in the draft, but was projected to be a top 15 selection by almost every single NFL analyst. Last year with the Crimson Tide in kind of an undefined slot safety role, Branch totaled 90 tackles, 14 tackles for loss, only 3 tackles for loss less than his teammate Will Anderson, who went 3rd overall, while having 3 sacks, 2 interceptions, and 7 passes defended. Now, Brian Branch, his game is versatility. His game is his instincts. His game is the playmaking ability that he has, and he's not an elite athlete, right? He's not a phenomenal athlete by any means, but he is a really good football player. He's a great leader, was a team captain for the Alabama Crimson Tide last year. Again, totaled 90 tackles as a slot cornerback, 14 tackles for loss, This is a player that you can put around the line of scrimmage. This is a player that you can put at deep safety. This is a player that you can put at slot cornerback. This is a player that could probably even hold his own at boundary cornerback because he's just that good and that instinctual as a playmaker that you can put him anywhere on the defense and he is going to have a really good day at playing football, right? He's a versatile player, has really good instincts, is just a pure playmaker. And honestly, I don't think he was on the Lions boards super high. I don't think the Lions really needed to take Brian Branch because they have undefined role players, right? They have slot cornerbacks, they have boundary cornerbacks, they're super deep at safety. He's pretty much Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, just a little bit bigger. But the value at 45 to get a guy like Brian Branch, the mindset is take the position, take the playmaker, take the elite talents, right? The top 15, even top 10 talent for some people, and figure it out later. Put the best talent on the field and figure it out as you go. I think that's the exact mindset the Lions had while taking Brian Branch. Get the elite player, get the top playmaker, get the steal of the round, and then figure it out. Put him on the field somewhere. Put him on the field at slot cornerback. Put him on the field as a third safety, right? Rotate him and CJ Gardner-Johnson when you need a different role player. Add depth to your team and future-proof your roster with a Brian Branch-esque player and figure it out as you go. Now, the theme of this draft was controversy. Lions stayed controversial with their 5th pick, selecting Hendon Hooker with the 68th overall selection. Now, Hendon Hooker last year only ended up playing 11 games before tearing his ACL against South Carolina, but in those 11 games, passed for 3,135 yards, 27 touchdowns to just 2 interceptions. I think he's 69.6% completion percentage, having 430 rushing yards to his name. Hendon Hooker has accuracy. He has a good short release, has good, not great arm talent, and is incredibly safe NFL prospect, right? But there are a lot of red flags that caused him to fall to the 3rd round. Firstly, the injury, the ACL tear is a major concern, and combined with his age of 25 years old, the oldest prospect in this class, there is a lot of concern of whether he's going to be the same player when he returns. Now, assuming he does return, there are some concerns there as well, right? The Tennessee offense wasn't a very NFL-esque offense. It was a one read, catch it and throw, screen passes or bombs away. There was no in between. There really wasn't a ton of multiple reads. And if there were, they were both on the same side of the field, right? Hendon Hooker did not really show the ability to read the field, at least not as well as guys like CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, or Anthony Richardson, right? Didn't really show the, I would say, consistency at the deep ball. He threw a lot of really good deep balls, but he also overthrew or underthrew 2 or 3 deep balls a game, which need to be hits in the NFL. However, when you're throwing, 12, 13 a game, you're probably going to miss a few. So I understand that aspect. His accuracy at all 3 levels was pretty good. Again, despite the 2 or 3 misses a game on those deep balls, his release is quick and really good mechanically. He has good arm strength to get it anywhere on the field. And again, he's a safe prospect. He's going to put up numbers in a good system. He's not going to turn the football over. Didn't do it at Tennessee. Didn't do it at Virginia Tech. He's a very safe prospect, is a good quarterback too. I don't know if he's going to be ready by the start of the NFL season. Probably not, based on when he tore his ACL a season ago. Probably will take a couple weeks into the NFL year before he's truly healthy and ready to go. Right? Tore his ACL, 12th game of the NFL or 12th game of the college football season. Jameson Williams tore his in the college football national championships about a month removed. So, obviously it's a different position. Hendon Hooker is throwing already at practices. I think he'll get a little bit of work in training camp, but obviously won't be full reps and full go. I'm not sure what his injury timeline is going to look like as far as returning, but when he does return, he should be a really good backup quarterback at the very least, and potentially the quarterback of the future. Now, the Lions surprised a lot of people by trading up for Brodric Martin, giving up 3 5th and 6th round picks total to move up to select their starting nose tackle. Now, they give up 3 picks, I believe, ranging from about 130 to 160. I believe 2 in the 5th and 1 in the 6th for a guy that statistically isn't going to jump off the page. Having 31 tackles last year, 1.5 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks, 2 passes defended, and a forced fumble. You might not understand why the Lions traded up so far for Brodric Martin when a lot of people didn't have him graded very highly. Brodric Martin is a tank. He is, I believe, 6'6", 310 pounds, a massive player in the middle, brings size, brings an anchor, and brings a top-tier nose tackle-esque player. Now, you might say, okay, statistically, this player is not a top 100 pick. Statistically, he marks up really well with what Mazi Smith did at Michigan, except Brodric Jones is significantly bigger, significantly heavier, and isn't quite as explosive, but brings a lot of the traits you really want as the nose tackle. The Lions get him in and they bulk him up a little bit. They build him a little bit of muscle, teach him how to use his leverage a little bit better. Brodric Martin can turn into a really good nose tackle in the NFL. And again, there's going to be people saying, oh, well, they didn't get the 3-tech, they didn't get the pass rusher, but the way that the Lions drafted this year tells me that Levi Onwuzurike is going to be healthy, right? He's at voluntary workouts, and he apparently looks pretty good at those workouts. It also tells me that Josh Pascal is pretty healthy as an edge rusher and as a pass rusher. It tells me that they're going to move Aleem McNeil to 3-tech, where he did get some snaps last year and looked really good, mostly played that role versus the Giants, what I thought was his best game of the season. So now you have Brodric Jones as your nose, you have Aleem McNeil as your 3, you have Isaiah Buggs as your other defensive tackle, and then you're going to rotate the edges and potentially the interior with Kaminsky and Pascal and Hutchinson and Houston and Okwara, and you're going to have a really good deep pass rushing core. But Brodric Martin is the middle guy. Brodric Martin is the big nose tackle that's going to eat up double teams, is not going to move, is going to be just a tree stump in the middle, and is not going to allow very much in the running game for any opponent of the Detroit Lions. Right? The running game really down the stretch hurt the Detroit Lions. That this time around is going to be their strength. They addressed the rushing game a lot this season as far as the defensive side of the ball with Martin and Campbell, and their run defense should be significantly better going forward. The Detroit Lions only ended up with 2 picks in the 3rd day of the NFL draft, as they did give up 3 picks to move up for Brodric Martin. And the first pick in the 5th round was Colby Sorsdal, a offensive tackle from William and Mary. Last year had a 91.3 PFF run blocking grade, was a team captain, a 5-year starter, and led the best offensive line in the CAA conference. Now, honestly, I don't know a whole lot about Colby Sorsdal. I know that a lot of people say he doesn't really have elite NFL measurables, but you can't really deny the production, right? He's a really good run blocker, was part of the best offensive line in the conference that I believe I read only allowed 11 sacks all season. He's a great run blocker, a great pass blocker, brings leadership as he was a team captain, is versatile, can play guard or tackle on either side of the line, and just brings a solid, safe offensive lineman as depth for your team and kind of fills out the offensive line. He's a player that, despite not being an elite NFL tackle length, is bigger than Peter Skoronski, is bigger than some of the other small tackles we've seen in the NFL in these past couple of years, and should be a pretty solid NFL player, if nothing else, to be depth for this team. And then the Lions finished off their draft class with Antoine Green, who last year had 798 yards, 7 touchdowns, and averaged 18 yards per reception, 18.6 yards per reception as the second option at North Carolina. Sitting at 6'2" with 4.4 speed, he brings a really good deep threat to the Detroit Lions offense, and in his career averaged 19 yards per reception, 1,700 yards, and 15 touchdowns, despite always being overshadowed as the wide receiver 2 or 3, and never really having great quarterbacking play until the final year of his collegiate career. Now, Antoine Green brings size and speed, as I said, 6'2", 4.4 speed. Reminds me a lot of Marvin Jones as a prospect from a size-speed comparison. Has strong hands, is a big play waiting to happen down the field. And with Jameson Williams missing the first 6 games of the NFL season, he's going to be the deep threat. He's going to be the X. He's going to get time as a potential big play threat, and he's going to threaten a lot of teams with his speed and length and stride. Now, obviously, I'm not going to expect him to be a 1,000-yard receiver in year 1, but he does bring the measurables you want, does bring the speed that you want, does have the strong hands, does high point the ball fairly well, and just overall is a good playmaker that the Detroit Lions can use in a lot of different ways in the 6 weeks that they're going to be missing Jameson Williams. Now, overall, I think this draft class was really solid. I think as far as positional value, you might not have gotten everything that you were looking for, but as far as players that are going to play and impact the game early, the Detroit Lions did a pretty good job. Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be a great player on day 1, an explosive running back in the rushing and the receiving attack. Jack Campbell is going to be a leader on the defense from day 1, is going to improve the pass is going to improve the run game as well as improve the pass coverage game from your linebacker position, something we've really been lacking for multiple years at this point. Sam LaPorta is going to be a great yak tight end immediately, and I would not be surprised if he turns into a 1,000-yard receiver one day. Brian Branch is an elite playmaker. He's a versatile guy that you can put anywhere on the line. Brodric Martin has the potential to turn into an elite nose tackle in the NFL, has the size and has the ability, just needs to build up the strength and learn to use his leverage a little bit better. Hendon Hooker, despite not being my favorite prospect, definitely has some upside, definitely has some talent, is a safe player that doesn't turn the ball over, has a decent deep ball and really good accuracies across the board, while adding some mobility to the quarterbacking position. Now, Colby Sorsdal is a really good young offensive tackle, didn't play at the highest level of competition, but dominated at the competition that he had. And then Antoine Green is a big play wide receiver that can add some deep threat ability to the Lions offense immediately. So, with all that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. Recapping the Detroit Lions 2023 draft, looking at the playmakers that they were able to add, and we are down to a final grade. What would I give the Detroit Lions as far as a final grade for this draft? I think they get an A-. I think that despite not having the positional value, despite not having the elite, defensive tackle or the elite edge rusher or the elite cornerbacks from this class, they got a lot of playmakers. They got probably 4 to 5 guys that can impact the game on day one, and they probably got 5 or 6 players that are going to be long-term members of this team, if not 6 or 7, right? I think that Gibbs and Campbell and LaPorta and Branch and Hooker and Martin can all be players that impact this team for a long time. And I think Antoine Green can affect this team immediately and stick around as kind of a depth wide receiver for multiple years to come. So with all that being said, that is all for you guys today. A longer video, but covering the entirety of the 2023 NFL draft. We'll be back tomorrow covering the UDFA class because there are some good ones in this class and Brad Holmes went to work. But with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys right now. If you're still here at the end of the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video. It would mean a lot to me and it would help the channel out tremendously. But with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys right now. Thank you all so very much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go Lions.